Yes, so we've had funny, entertaining, useful, informative, relevant. I forgot to tick most of those boxes, but what I did do is create a really long-winded metaphor using lots of pictures that I've taken on Instagram and stuff. So hold on tight. Breakfast. I've got a lot of pictures of breakfast that it turned out. And I like breakfast. It's my favourite meal of the day. I miss it most weekdays, but then at the weekend I do thoroughly enjoy going out. I find it quite relaxing breakfast. Whether it's bacon and avocado or the eggs and it's just a nice meal. It's less stressful than all the others. Even at home, it's more enjoyable to make, I think, compared to many others. It's a bit simpler. Again, there's avocado in there. It becomes a reoccurring theme on my Instagram feed that most breakfasts do include avocado. You'll notice orange juice there, which is kind of where we're going to make a transition, and things are really going to ramp up and get good. Coffee, Instagram shots of coffee. I have way too many of these, but when making this presentation, they came in quite handy. And I discovered coffee from going out for quite a lot of breakfasts, and it came with it. I didn't really drink all that much coffee before breakfast came into play, but then I sort of discovered it, and aren't those latte arts lovely? So after drinking all this coffee, I got this coffee making machine from my girlfriend, because she was like, "Oh, you really enjoy those coffees when we go out for breakfast and stuff." I thought you could try making some yourself, and you might really enjoy it, and I really didn't know what else to get you. So this was my first machine 3 or 4 years ago. And I started making it. I obviously bought all the books to go with it, where to find other coffee, how to make coffee, the London Coffee Guide, so I could go out for more coffee and take pictures of more coffee, more importantly. This is one of those points where you can't even drag coffee books out for 20 seconds. So we were just, look, it's coffee stuff. I love stuff in general, so when it came to coffee, there was books, there was also stuff. There's a thermometer there to look at how hot your milk is, a tamper. Really difficult to find coffee tampers to pressure the coffee, and considered starting up an online eBay business because of how difficult it was for me to find a tamper. All Press is one of my favourites, Fernandez and Wells down the road as well. So after a few years of making coffee at home, Emma again thought, let's take this even further, and bought me a coffee course. So I went on a coffee making course, and this is where the metaphor starts to get somewhere. So I went on this coffee making course over in Liverpool Street on a warm winter's evening, and the guy asked, "What do you want to get out of this course?" To the 6 of us. Half the room were interested in latte art. They had seen all this funky stuff going on. They wanted to know how to do that. The other half of the room, of which I sat, out of the 6 people and the 3 of us, dabbled in coffee making, whatever it is, and wanted to know a little bit more about it and get proper. So we started the course, and the first step was the grind, and what you do with that. Too coarse, and the water will go through it too quickly, and it'll be very watery. Too fine, and the water won't go through at the right speed, so you won't get again the right espresso shot out of it, which is all really interesting. Then it came to the tampering, that pushing down of the coffee. Now, what could be difficult about this? It turns out, if that's wonky, water likes to find the fastest course of release or whatever. He had a much more technical way of saying it. So the water will go through there, and again, you'll get a really shit shot of coffee. So that needs to be really flat and level and nice, so remember that. And eventually you get your shot of coffee out of it, and that should weigh something in particular to what you've put in of the beans. I can't remember because I'm not very good with detail. But you end up with your coffee shot, and that's what we all work towards, and that was a good hour 15, hour 20 minutes of this course, which was all very interesting. Then we moved on to the milk. The other half of the room very excited about the milk because they turned up. They want to know about the latte art on there. So we go through the milk, and you've got to steam the milk, and the steaming of the milk was actually more complicated than it looked, because what you're doing is you're stretching the milk, so then you get the frothy stuff on top. You've got to shake it around, you've got to bang it to get the bubbles out. That's what they're doing if you're in a coffee shop and they do it. And then eventually, you go and do this, but we didn't do this. We kind of just pulled it in and tried to balance stuff and do this, and he did this. So that was basically where we got to on the course. They showed us how to do it all, and it was all really interesting if you were there and interested in coffee. Maybe 20 seconds. But what he did do, and then we get to the important point, that latte art doesn't make the coffee. He said, don't worry if you can't get all this, because that doesn't really matter, because what's really, really important is the coffee making process and what lies underneath the foam, because he won't hire someone who can do all this and write your name on top of a coffee or draw a cock or a cat or anything like that. He wants the person that can make the coffee that lies underneath. So 2 hours, 6 espresso shots later of this coffee course, I was awake. It was in the evening. The evening is not the time to do a coffee course, in case anyone was thinking about doing one. And then I had to head home. But he had a useful piece of advice, more useful than any other piece of advice he'd given us, that basically go and drink a beer or have a glass of wine, and that will counterbalance everything that the coffee has done. Those 6 espresso shots will mean nothing because you have had this beer. So off I went home, and luckily I had a beer in the fridge and I drank that beer. That was the story of the coffee course making thing, but we're not finished. Because there's 3 things going back to the beginning, what agencies can learn from that process. Long-winded metaphors. Number 1, coffee making is more science than art. You need the right measures of all components for the best final results. I.e., not one element does it, or the fancy stuff on top, it's all what lies underneath, and it's not one thing that makes the underneath. It's all of it coming together, a bit like all the departments we work with to deliver a piece of work. Number 2, fancy novelty veneer, that latte art doesn't really mean anything. You know, it makes it stand out and people go, oh, that's fancy and nice, but it won't make people come back for more if they walk away with your coffee, put that lid on, it's all forgotten, and then it tastes like shit. So number 2 is that. And then number 3, finally, to wrap things up, is that, this is unrelated to agencies, but that beer thing didn't work. I was up until about 3. So that is what agencies can learn from baristas.